Hello again. In the first part of my video tutorial, I showed you how the piano pedals work and which are their functions. Now we'll move to the trickiest and most interesting part, how we should use the pedals in order to play musically and expressively. First, let's learn how to place our foot on the pedal correctly. Your foot should not cover the entire pedal, so avoid doing something like this, but only its larger part. So you should place your foot like this on the pedal. You always have to try to press the pedal as smoothly as possible, you see, without making sudden movements and without making noise. So you should avoid this kind of noise and this kind of sudden movements. Also, when you work with the pedal, make sure that your foot is in permanent contact with the surface of the pedal. So you don't have to raise your foot like this. Keep the contact with the pedal, and this will ensure that you're using it as smoothly and as correctly as possible. The first rule in using the piano pedals is to activate your hearing. The great piano professor Heinrich Niegaus used to say that the art of pedaling is governed by the ear. There is no such thing as a correct pedal. We don't have to play a piece with or without pedal only because somebody said that this is the correct way of doing it. For example, what is correct for a composer is totally inappropriate for another composer. And what is suitable for the classical style is completely not appropriate for the romantic style, and so on. I describe in my article on pianocareer.com the most suitable pedaling techniques depending on style and composer. So I will say that there are two ways of using the piano pedals, especially the sustain. Not correct and incorrect, but on one hand musically appropriate and on the other hand musically inappropriate. There are simply beautiful, convincing performances where the use of the pedal is harmoniously integrated into the artistic message of the piece. And of course, there are less inspired performances where the pedal sounds dirty because the pianist is playing mechanically without being aware of the accuracy of the sound, without activating his or her hearing. So instead of talking about a correct way of using the pedals, I'm simply going to describe the main pedaling techniques and how we should use them in order to create certain effects. And in the end, it will be up to you and your hearing how to use the knowledge that you're about to learn. There are three main pedaling techniques. The first one is called the delayed pedal. We can also call it the indirect pedal, the retarded pedal, or the legato pedal. And in some books I also came across the term syncopated pedal. All these English terms are approximate translations of the Russian term запаздывающая педаль. And now I'm going to show you this technique. We call it a delayed pedal because we press it immediately after playing a note, but before releasing the key. Its function is to hold the sound until we press the next one. This way, creating a connection between a series of separated sounds. Let's begin with an easy example. Let's imagine that we have to play on legato, that we have to connect several notes that are situated far from each other, no matter what notes we're talking about. So we press the first note, we catch it with the pedal, making sure that we press the pedal after playing the note but before releasing the key, and then we change the pedal on the following note. What happens is a reverse movement. Each time our fingers goes down, the pedal goes up and then down. So up and down, up and down. And this way we change the pedal on each new note or on each new chord, making sure that each new sound or harmony sounds clean. So one more time, let's see how this delayed pedaling technique works. Engage, release, engage, release, engage, release the pedal, engage it. So release and engage. This is how it works, and you see what amazing effect it can create. And also, besides creating this connection, it also helps us to keep each new harmony clean from notes, from dissonant notes that don't belong in this particular harmony, in this particular chord. Now let's play an example that I really like. It's an easy piece from Tchaikovsky's children's album. It's the last piece called In Church. It's a classical example of creating a beautiful legato between different chords by using the delayed type of pedaling technique. please notice that I don't change the pedal on each chord. For example, this is a G chord, and I'm not changing the pedal each time I repeat this chord. I'm changing it only on each new harmony. Your hearing and your hearing alone should determine how often you change the pedal. Of course, you cannot do something like this. Do you see how dirty it sounds? On the other hand, it's not necessary to change the pedal on each chord. Change and change and change. No. This E minor chord goes on the same pedal. Then we change and we change again and again. This is a D major chord. And again we change here and we change here again. A false, dirty, dissonant pedal means not activating your hearing and gluing sounds that simply don't belong together. For example, like this. It sounds awful, let's face it. So we covered the first pedaling technique, also called the delayed pedal. Now we'll move to the next one, to the simultaneous pedaling technique, also called the direct pedal. We don't use this technique for creating a connection or for making a beautiful legato. We need it only for accenting a certain chord or a certain note, for making it sound deeper, more important, more intense. This pedal is useful in playing pieces with a sharp, exact, dancing character, especially in waltzes. So let me give you an example from Grieg's Waltz Opus 12, number 2. So as you see, I press the pedal only on the first beat of the bar and I release it on the second. So I press simultaneously with the note and I release it on the second beat. So press, release, press, release. And you see what kind of character it allows us to create. So this type of pedaling technique allows us to feel the rhythm of the piece better. Now we have reached the third pedaling technique, and it is the easiest one. It's called the preliminary pedal. It means pressing the pedal before playing the first sound of a certain piece. Sometimes we can use this type of trick for activating all the resonating properties of the piano, so that when we begin to play, the sound will be really deep and really intense, because it will have the backup of all the other strings. Because as you all know, when we press the sustain pedal, all the dampers are being raised and the strings, all the strings are free to resonate. And when we press the first chord of a certain piece, it already has a very intense sonority, a very deep one. Now that I showed you the main pedaling techniques, I should also mention that there are several gradation types in using the right pedal, the sustain pedal. Yes, that's right, there are different ways of pressing the right pedal. We have the full pedal, the half pedal and also the quarter pedal. But since the last one is a really subtle and complicated technique, we'll cover it sometimes in the future. For now, we'll talk only about the full pedal and the half pedal. The full pedal is the easiest one. It means pressing the pedal all the way down and then raising it or changing it all the way up. With the half pedal, things get more interesting. This technique is not necessary for beginners, being usually explained only to advanced students. I'll write about this type of pedal gradation in my article about the art of pedaling on pianocareer.com. And now I'll only say that it is extremely useful when we have to play multi-layered music, for example, piano transcriptions of Bach's organ works, where we have 3 staves instead of 2, and we have, for example, to hold the bass note and at the same time change the pedal and make the higher registers sound really clean, really transparent and detached. And it's also useful in playing orchestral transcriptions and other complex piano works. And now a bonus pedaling technique, which is called the gradual release of the pedal. It is especially useful in the end of the piece when playing the final chord or the final note. So let's imagine that we're playing a certain piece which ends with a D minor chord. And please compare. Now I'm playing this chord. And now I released the pedal abruptly. And now I'm playing the same chord and I will release the pedal gradually, allowing the sound to fade naturally until it disappears. So you see the difference, and you see that the second technique is much more convincing. My tutorial also has another part, which is understanding pedal notation. I covered this topic in my article on piano career as well, and I also describe how to use the pedal depending on the epoch when the piece was written and also depending on the style of the composer. As a conclusion, I will say that no matter what piece you play, you don't have to follow the pedal indications from your score literally by pressing and releasing the pedal in the exact place, the exact millimeter where the composer or the editor indicated. Yes, you should use these indications as, let's say, road directions, but in the end you have to trust your own sense of style, your own hearing, and do not allow the sonority to become dirty, to become cluttered with sounds that do not belong there and do not match the style, the character and the atmosphere of the piece. My name is Ilinka Vartik, thank you for watching, and if you're interested in more piano playing secrets and tips, go ahead and visit my website pianocareer.com. Thanks and talk to you soon!